The Spanish government, okay, not just the private company, no, the Spanish government wants to make an app that will tell wives if men aren't doing enough house chores. Is the divorce rate too low in Spain? Do they have too many babies and they're like, okay, well, we need to lower the natality rate a little bit? Or is it perhaps that there's not enough single mothers? There's to be more welfare given, allocated for single moms, right? Why else would you make this app? Like, this is literally the way you can create division within a household. So why not have an app where it tells parents if children don't work enough? They don't do their chores, they don't do their homework. No, we're not making an app on that, right? How about an app where it tells you if the government doesn't work enough? Like if the person you voted for doesn't actually do what they're supposed to, or doesn't even show up to the parliament. Like, can we have an app for that? No, of course not. I mean, holy shit, like expecting accountability from the people in charge. Now that would be something. So let's read the article and then I'll make the commentary on why this is absolutely ridiculous. But as you can see here, the app tells the wives if their men are doing enough housework. It doesn't tell the men if the wife isn't doing enough housework, but I guess it's because men are very forgiving and they don't care, or they would know without an app. See, a man doesn't need the government to tell him. He can find out by himself. The correct solution to this is for all men to identify as women, and then you become a wife, and then you can use the app to tell you if she doesn't do the housework. So apparently Spain has announced plans, again like the government, that tell wives if their men are doing enough housework. The new app intends to address the gender imbalance of housework and will log hours that a family member spends doing chores. Isn't it wonderful that the government is actually in your home? Like literally you are sitting in your home and next to you it is the government. The idea that they get to penetrate even the most private affairs of its citizens. Now that is a glorious government. See, Benito Mussolini tried to do something like that, but he didn't have the power of the internet. Luckily, we live in very progressive and forward-thinking times where every activity, including those that are supposed to be private, are now the business of the government. It's going to be a time when you go to take a piss and the government is there. Like, how can you take a piss? How can you tinkle if the government isn't watching? Angela Rodriguez, this soccer mom on steroids, which is Spain Minister for Gender Equality and Domestic Violence, said her department was in the process to develop the free app. Well, if you actually have to go into the household of your private citizens and get invested into their daily lives to such an extent that even Hitler would get a boner, maybe, just maybe, you have fixed the domestic violence issue. Because clearly, like, you're now allocating resources to other things. So I assume that domestic violence in Spain has been fixed. And now they're just going after the trivial matters. And by the way, if this isn't government overreach, can you tell me how government overreach would look like? Not to mention free app. Like, what do you mean free app? Like, did you get a bunch of developers and are you forcing them to work? Is Spain going back to slavery? Because that's the only way you can have free stuff. Is if you force people to work for free. Oh, it's the taxpayer money, isn't it? Yes, naruhodo. So basically, you're taking money from the budget. Like you have a Spanish person that works hard for a living, comes home tired, and from that money, you steal the taxes, and instead of building roads and other shit that the government is supposed to do, you're making an app. Look at it. 211,000 euros. 211,000 euros spent for this shit. Interesting. If it was a requirement, you would think a private company could do it. You would think that if it was genuinely something that the market would have wanted, it would have come up by itself. We women spend more time on domestic tasks than men, Rodriguez said. That's very subjective, isn't it? And I love the fact that it doesn't depend on the family whatsoever. Like, what about if you have a family where Elon Musk, the world's richest man, brings home the bacon and he's got a stay-at-home wife? Who works more? How do you even quantify that? Like, legit, how do you quantify something like that? It's just very bizarre, isn't it? Like what if the guy works at a nuclear reactor and risks his health? Or works at a construction site, builds a skyscraper at the 45th floor. should he demand more of his wife then? Like, he should be like, oh, so you're just staying home and doing nothing? No, get a job. You know, you need to become in construction as well. Join the military. Put your life on the line, because, like, we need to be equal, right? Like, why should I put my life on the line and you, dear wife, shouldn't? You need to join the Marines. Is that like something that should even be discussed? Shouldn't this matter be of a private thing that couples discuss and handle by themselves? Apparently not. The minister was speaking at a conference in Geneva discussing discrimination against women. Being in a relationship is a privilege, not a right. Like, you can't be discriminated. At any point, you can divorce. You know, you have no full divorce. No one is forcing you to get married. No one is forcing you to get in a relationship. Like, these things are negotiated at the couple level. You can't say that if a like, let's even assume that a man marries an ushikushi sakubasu. She's got like these big, plump, D-sized breasts, perfect body, 10 out of 10 waifu. She goes to work. She's a CEO at some company. And when she comes home, the husband literally does nothing. The sakubasu is not being discriminated. Right? Like, at any point, she can leave the relationship. If maybe the husband is so good and mind-blowing in bed that she just wants to have the relationship like that. It's not the job of the government to decide on masses, like not even on individual cases, on masses, that, yeah, no, this is unacceptable. Like, we shouldn't have this. The sakubasu is being discriminated. It's difficult to comprehend. Isn't it? It's difficult to understand, like, how some people think about this way. The Eastern European cynical brain of mine is looking at this and is thinking money laundering. There is no fucking way. Like, she's probably friends with some of the people developing the app. Or she's got relatives with the people that are developing the app. There is no other fucking explanation that I can think of. Either that or she's so incompetent at her job that she needs to show that she did something. Like, she needs to prove to the parliament that, look, I actually did something. I made an app. And everyone's like, oh my God, you have ended domestic violence in Spain. So apparently Rodriguez said that nearly half of the women who took part in the survey of Spain's national statistic, yeah, but this is subjective, right? Like when you ask something, if you ask me, V, do you think that you're doing enough things around the house? And then, you know, I can bullshit. I can say whatever I want, but like most people will try to victimize themselves. Most people will try to present themselves in a normal life. Like, you're not asking the men, right? Like, you're not asking to see, like, what do the men have to say. You're asking the women, are men doing enough? And they say no. You know, ask the men, and they may say, well, yeah, the women aren't doing enough. Like, I came home, there was no food. You know, like, it's completely subjective. Having a survey where you're asking, and it's like nearly half of women, so like, more than half of women said that it's fine, but that doesn't stop you from pushing your agenda. The disparity has even caused legal rows in Spain. In April 2017, a court in Cantabria ordered the man to pay his ex-wife over £23,000 for the housework she undertook over their 6 years together. You know what? This is actually a lot better than alimony. It's like, fine, how much was the housework worth? $23,000. One-time payment. Isn't it a lot better than it's like in the American thing? It's like, oh no, you need to pay just a constant monthly fee. No. 23,000. How do you even quantify it? You know, like, this is the problem. It's the Marxist theory of labor, right? Just because you spend a lot of time doing something doesn't mean it's a good job. So, for example, if I were to spend 3 hours cleaning the house, and when my wife comes home, she finds that the windows are messy, the carpet still has dust on it, there's greasy stains under the furniture. So, even though I spent a lot of time cleaning, I didn't do a good job. So my wife then decides to start cleaning, does 1 hour of work, and all of a sudden the house is spotless. So the question is, who did more work? I mean, technically I did more work, but I can't show up for it. It's not good work, but I spent 3 hours working, right? Meanwhile, she spent 1 hour, and she did a much better job. This is where the Marxist theory of value fails, because just because you spend more time doing work, right, like they believe work is work and should be recompensated. No. Like, some work is better than other. Some work is even detrimental. Like, for example, if you buy the most expensive steak in the world, I think it's like a Japanese steak, can cost around $2,000. So you buy that. and you give it to me, and I burn it. Now, in order to try to cook it, I spent a lot of time, but I literally devalued the product. Like now, it's worthless because it's burned. Then you can buy the cheapest steak that you can find and give it to Chef Gordon Ramsay. And Chef Gordon Ramsay manages to make from that steak a delicious dish, clearly increasing the value of the original product. You know, like, who worked more? Maybe I worked more. I slaved more. I tried to read cooking books. I tried to figure out how to cook it, but I failed. But at the end of the day, my work actually did worse than what a professional chef could have done. So this is why the theory of value, it's like, oh, well, who spent more work fails. And what's interesting is every single fucking time I see these articles and I see these initiatives, I look at the comment section, overwhelmingly negative. Where are the people that are supporting this shit? I generally think like most people don't care. And it's like, yeah, whatever. At the end of the day, it doesn't change anything. It just highlights the mindset of the government. The first concerning thing is that they believe they have the entitlement, that they have the right to actually judge the most personal and private affairs that goes on in the house of two people. They are trying to create division. They are definitely favoring one gender over another. They are pushing for stereotypes. All of these things are the mindset of the Spanish government. Let me know what you guys think though, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.